Welcome back, welcome back. So, we're gonna do a little talking about this today, but I'm not gonna do any talking. I'm watching this guy's video after work, and I found a fellow thinker. So, we're gonna break his video up into two parts because it's like a half an hour.
Them perfect.
No, it's 42 minutes, and I want to make sure I get all of this because y'all got to get this work. This man put in a lot of good work, and I don't have to run my mouth about things. He's going to say exactly what I say. People learn off other people, and we watch things and we notice things. So without any further ado.
A few years back, I uploaded a review of The Incredibles 2, where I lay out an argument that the sequel to The Incredibles was ruined through rewrites. The sequel was clearly meant to celebrate the first film in its original iteration, but instead, through rewrites, was twisted into a broken mess that insults the original film. I believe what I described in that review is a clear example of how the film industry has changed in the last decade, and how Hollywood has evolved into something much more nefarious. I'm sure you've heard it discussed before that Hollywood is trying to make their films as profitable as possible to foreign markets and attempting to make $1 billion off of every single blockbuster by appealing to as wide an audience as possible, resulting in nonsensical storylines and bland, unrelatable characters and endless, meaningless action scenes with no substance. But that's only part of the issue. Money is merely one aspect of Hollywood's motivation to change the conventions of entertainment. I believe that Disney Pixar ruined The Incredibles 2 on purpose, not to capitulate to the demands of foreign markets or appeal to Chinese audiences, and not to make $1 billion off of a summer blockbuster like we've heard so many times before, but it's my opinion that Disney Pixar rewrote the original script of Incredibles 2 with the...
You heard what he said, opinion. Not saying it's a fact. He's saying what I say. I notice things in life, and I'm going to talk. I'm going to speak my mind.
Intention of destroying everything that we loved about the first Incredibles film. Not only do none of the themes about the importance of family carry over from the first film to the second, but the sequel is structured to actively contradict the lessons that we learned from the original Incredibles movie. I've come to some sobering realizations about the entertainment industry during my career. Things I've wanted to talk about for a very long time, but was too nervous to say because I was worried about sounding like a crazy person. But in the last year, I've managed to gain some reliable contacts on the inside. Creators like actors, musicians, writers, people who were used by the entertainment industry to push propaganda, the same way that I've been used to push propaganda in my past. And they've helped me to understand that not only was I right the whole time about the evil that I've seen, but the entertainment industry is much worse than I realized.
Homeboy went in.
Bring myself to watch new movies anymore because the experience is too frustrating and painful now. There were always things that bothered me about the way entertainers were treated, the way nefarious messages were hidden in movies and TV shows, the way things that we consider sacred were constantly insulted and destroyed and deconstructed. But the entertainment industry is totally broken now. Basic storytelling conventions are ignored or even openly disrespected in the name of pushing agendas. There were always aspects that made me uncomfortable about Hollywood, like, for example, the way actors are dehumanized and humiliated by their directors and the media. But I used to be able to ignore that somewhat, kind of brush it off as one of those unspoken rules of entertainment, because I did not know for sure that the actors weren't in on it. I didn't know for sure that the actors didn't know that that was what was happening to them. It seemed reasonable that they would have had to have known, since it was so obvious to me, and I'm just some idiot watching. But when it was made clear to me that entertainers do not usually have a choice, that they're used by their controllers, used by their agents and directors, my heart broke. And at the end of this video, I'm going to give you a couple of examples of film franchises that I've loved and enjoyed over the decades, films that I myself have praised, that I'm now totally convinced were intentionally destroyed, intentionally ruined by Hollywood or their directors to push agendas and attack the value systems that we hold sacred. Decisions that were made in an attempt to demoralize the people who love these film franchises and demoralize the people who love the characters and the actors who play them. Back in 1984, a supposed KGB defector, Yuri Bezmenov, gave interviews and lectures to American audiences describing the USSR's supposed plan to demoralize the United States with the introduction of certain concepts into entertainment.
The main emphasis of the KGB is not in the area of intelligence at all. Only about 15% of time, money, and manpower is spent on espionage as such. The other 85% is a slow process which we call either ideological subversion or psychological warfare. Ideological subversion is overt and open. You can see it with your own eyes. All American mass media has to do is to unplug their bananas from their ears, open up their eyes, and they can see it. There is no mystery. To change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow. Demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. This is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students exposed to the ideology.
Do you really think that they just figured that out? If we teach a bunch of young motherfuckers what reality is, then they'll grow up and then that's reality. No. See, they try to make shit seem like it's new, but when you learn old Roman civil codes called fucking how to deal with your slaves, then you learn that's the first thing they do is you take out the brave ones in front of everybody, and then you tell the women you run shit now. And then women are so imaginative that if they're running shit, running the household, then they're gonna teach their children to be imaginative instead of real based. Oh yeah, black people call it the Willie Lynch letters.
Of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students.
Overall, he made a pretty compelling case for how America's cultural cohesion and moral compass can be warped and changed to create a weaker nation and stir up civil unrest. And since then, it seems that a lot of what he predicted has actually come true. The problem is, this is a lie. It wasn't the Russians that did this to us. It wasn't the KGB or the Chinese that altered the course of entertainment, turning it into a tool to socially engineer us into a broken culture with distorted morality, causing us to adopt destructive mindsets and believing in broken philosophies. No, we did this to ourselves. It was our own entertainment industry.
Now, didn't I tell you that the Bible said and predicted that you guys are gonna wake up, look at your own people, and be like, you motherfuckers lied to us about everything? Is that not what this boy's doing? This man, this grown-ass man, is he not doing that? Is he not saying, yo, user, you think you're fucking slick? You're not slick.
That did this to us. It was our own people who changed film, television, and music into a tool of moral destruction. And social movements like social justice warriors, whatever you want to call them, were trained to be useful idiots in this war for our minds, essentially demanding that the entertainment industry implement these changes into art, all in the name of inclusion and social justice. I've been debunking and arguing against this this fake version of progressive entertainment my entire YouTube career, trying to make a case that it's actually regressive. In the old days of the internet, the old days of social commentary, the term woke used to mean something a little bit different. A person that was woke was someone who understood that the banks control the world, that America is a nation of slaves and prostitutes being used for the personal gain and wealth of the elite, that the military-industrial complex and the CIA control the entertainment industry. I wasn't the first one to say these things, and please God, don't let me be the last. Entire libraries of work, entire archives of information about this used to be available on YouTube and multiple image boards, message boards, other websites.
Oh, so that part of the internet that I keep telling you guys about that existed but ain't fucking there no more? Oh, my channel and many other people, all their work is gone. And now we got all these new alpha males and Cat Samuel niggas.
Only a decade ago.
I see through
but
this.
somehow in the last few
All of
years,
you.
the term woke has morphed into a blanket term insult to describe people who want social equality, or someone who's pro-LGBT, or someone who advocates for inclusion in media. The term woke was taken away from us. It was stolen from us. And all the...
So what he's basically telling you is, we woke up, Matrix, went online, started fucking running our mouths, waking other niggas up. They seen the shit and said, oh, we gotta stop. What can we do about this? Cause there's too many of them. And they're fucking running the internet now more than we are. They got people watching them more than TV. So, this is where yin and yang come into play. And this is why I keep telling you, all they do is copy what good people do, then make their own version, then beat you in the fucking head and stop the movement. What they do to the civil rights. Now, civil rights is looked at as for everyone. It's not looked at as for the people that got beat in the fucking head and charged that with dogs and shot with water hoses. We had to get that. So everyone else gets to use it. But we're still fucking fighting for civil rights. Get it?
Those old conspiracy theories.
It seems like they don't want somebody to wake up. It seems like they need a special group of people to stay sleep.
Videos, all those woke websites have now all been wiped from the internet, along with all those communities who used to speak out against all of these issues. Now, don't get me wrong, I am pro-LGBT. I am an advocate for inclusion.
Do whatever you want.
I agree with the overall concept of the new meaning of the word woke, and by today's standards,
Free
you
will.
can consider me woke. But woke culture and woke people are not the same thing as the woke agenda. The woke agenda is an overarching attempt by our controllers to actively demoralize us, to destroy our love for each other, destroy our ability to get along and coexist. It's an attempt to separate us, to pit us against each other through identity politics, all while pretending to be against hatred, all under the guise of being against segregation. Yet the end result of all of their work is a more disjointed society, a more disjointed culture, and the more they divide us, the easier we are to control. Obviously, there is an active contingent of far-right wingers that are against inclusion, that are against the LGBT and progressive thought, but for the most part, the reason people tend to get frustrated over a piece of media being too woke is not because it's inclusive. I've argued against that idea for a very long time now. The reason wokeness in media is being received as offensive by audiences is because of the obtuse way that those ideas are shoehorned into films and shows. They talk down to us and belittle our cultural conventions. Media uses wokeness as a veneer or as a cover to deflect from the more nefarious messages that they're trying to push. Entertainment is not made for us anymore. Entertainment is made at us. I can't say that I know for sure when I noticed this happening for the first time, but when Disney took over Marvel Studios and the Star Wars franchise, that's when it became too obvious to ignore. For those of us who grew up with the original,
Star Wars is one of the biggest movies and it has the biggest influence over America. Why would they change Star Wars? Oh yeah, 'cause Star Wars is really about the fucking Bible, and that's why I use it as all my references. That's why I say I'm a Jedi. That's what. And look what they did to the original thing. Oh yeah, I keep saying the Old Testament's where the real shit's at, and there's a New Testament overshadowing it. Two yin yang. One says one says the other. Get it?
edits of the original trilogy, Star Wars was about a very specific philosophy using a very specific dark and gritty tone. It was a very real and meaningful story taken seriously, but that has clearly changed. When I reviewed The Force Awakens and Rogue One, originally I praised Disney for displaying that they seemed to understand the franchise and understand what fans were expecting from the Star Wars universe. And I gave those films a positive response, recommending them as great fan service that also properly introduces Star Wars to a new generation of fans. The way that I saw it, those two films were a promise to the fans that Star Wars was in the right hands, that Disney knew what they were doing. But then when The Last Jedi was released a couple of years later, I reacted extremely negatively to that.
What's the odds of the movie called The Last Jedi, the new ones, the remakes, that's when they start fucking trashing everything? I wonder what's so important about that movie. Let's find out.
Film. Not only did The Last Jedi break the entire Star Wars universe, it also broke all of the trust and goodwill that Disney had built up with the Star Wars fans.
They were warning
Disney
them.
clearly
This is
promised
The Last
a
Jedi.
faithful representation of Star Wars that would serve the fans and continue the existing themes and story. Then they intentionally broke that promise and produced a deconstructivist take on the franchise, right in the middle of the trilogy. The Last Jedi divided the Star Wars community because it was used to intentionally attack our love for that movie universe. The entire theme of The Last Jedi was about killing the past, killing everything that we loved about the old Star Wars. Ryan?
Killing everything that we know from the past. I wonder if they're trying to get rid of the Old Testament. You get it now?
Johnson subverted every expectation that we had for the film and replaced it with a chaotic, vapid experience with no clear direction, hoping to distract us with goofy jokes and meaningless fantasy elements. At the time, I was confused. I wasn't really sure at the time that this was an intentional attack against Star Wars fans, against a franchise that we hold sacred. Nor did I realize that it was an attack on our values and principles for which the original Star Wars films stood, the meaningful messages that they conveyed. How could this be possible, I wondered? Kathleen Kennedy was hand-chosen for this intellectual...
Because if they make the characters different, then what the fuck do I keep saying about what your children watch all the time? Then that's what they become. So now if they twist the reality of what a Jedi is and a Sith Lord is, then your kids will not know the difference and they will become Sith.
Property because of her decades of experience in the film industry. She even received an endorsement by George Lucas himself, saying that he never would have handed the franchise over to Disney without her in charge. The destruction of Star Wars was not the fault of one shitty hipster asshole director who wanted to make a self-serving deconstructivist take on Star Wars. This can't all be blamed on Rian Johnson. That's their religion. That's their cult. I want you to think of the greater context.
I ain't gonna let you pass that.
caused by their decisions. They want you to think that it's the director's fault. At best, Ryan was just a useful idiot, a trained Marxist tasked with updating the franchise with a modern propaganda spin. That's their religion. That's their cult. I want you to think of the greater context. Think of how the Disney Corporation postures all of their film franchises. Disney now owns everything. Disney bought up every intellectual property that they could get their hands on. They even own The Simpsons now because they bought Fox.
What?
Disney even owns Fox. Yes, the financial implication of owning everything is that Disney now has a monopoly on entertainment today, obviously. But think about the cultural implication of one corporation owning every intellectual property. The power that they have over the way that all media is perceived and the messages that they convey to our children. Disney has a monopoly on morality, too. Disney has a monopoly on culture. Now one massive corporation has total autonomy over the way every beloved IP is presented. The messages that they put.
I could be wrong, but I could have swore to God in the United States Constitution that's illegal. But I really could be completely wrong. I could be for something else. That jumped into my head.
Now one company chooses what is moral, what is progressive, what is meaningful, what is a fair and proper representation of humanity itself. One company shapes the way that we perceive ourselves and our history. One company controls the way that artists and their work are presented and represented to the world. One company is using all entertainers and creators to engineer media that fits one specific vision for reality. Disney's version of woke. That's why everyone hates woke culture in film today. Not because we hate inclusion and diversity. We want those things in film. It's because those messages are being used against us. That desire to have those things included in film is being used against us. Mega corporation funded entertainment is not designed to help us navigate our harsh reality or authentically represent us in a faithful way. They have no interest in even acknowledging reality. Disney can just turn around and accuse us of hating strong women. Maybe the worst example of a corporate film doing this was likely the 2016 Ghostbusters film. That first trailer was absolute garbage and made the film look terrible and unwatchable. And director Paul Feig responded to almost every single complaint that we made about the film by accusing us of misogyny. But another more nefarious tactic that the new media employs is injecting terrible, cheesy, over-the-top humor into every scene, which serves to help hide the fact that they are actively attacking our culture and our values. By making every serious moment in a film silly, it subverts and bypasses our natural mental defenses against their destructive philosophies.
Basically, he's giving you a science lesson on when life is real. So sometimes when you give messages, it needs to be real. It doesn't need to be soft-spoken and all of this. This is why I say the Lord made me. And this is my time, because the people that are watching are not, well, the ones that are actually learning, they get it. They get it. They're like, I like the way he curses. I like the way he does everything he does. It's spunky, it's real, and it's new. It's not like the rest of these dudes when they're talking about God and showing different things. They get mad and yelling certain things, but it's not the same.
Everything's presented as a joke in a goofy reality, then we're less likely to notice that they're presenting a message that goes against our moral compass. I've felt a lot of fear and anxiety about discussing this topic. You're almost certainly going to want to reject all of this. It is wildly uncomfortable to think about, and I'm forcing you to rethink all of the entertainment that you love. I know that you're likely not convinced yet, and I'm not sure that I can prove any of this in one video, but I have a few examples for you that I'm hoping will help you understand that I am on to something here. That this is not just some bullshit that I'm inventing to scare you. This is something that I've been thinking about for a very long time now. I presented Star Wars as something that we hold sacred, but its destruction and its use against us began well before Disney took over. There were a lot of questionable decisions made by George Lucas to the original Star Wars trilogy films over the years, including the edits that he made to the special editions which were released in 1997. The special edition edits of Star Wars didn't just alter the special effects, it also changed the story as well. The meaning of the films. I think the first time that he did it is also the most obvious story change. When George Lucas altered the famous Han Solo shot first scene. Greedo, a bounty hunter, has Han Solo at gunpoint, threatening to take him into Jabba the Hutt as a bounty. Han Solo says, "Over my dead body," and Greedo replies, "That's the idea." By making that statement, "That's the idea," Greedo is admitting that he is going to kill Han Solo. That's what the scene is communicating. That statement was all that Han Solo needed to hear to know that he was a dead man if he didn't make a split-second decision. Solo had every right to shoot Greedo right then and there. Any idiot could have seen that. And in the original edit, that's exactly what happens. In fact, in the original edit, Greedo doesn't even get a shot off at all. You just hear one blast, a puff of smoke, and when it clears, Greedo is dead.